Hi, welcome to my presentation on internet use violations and the case study that we studied. Um, the problem based in our case study was possibly based around the idea that Miss Walker had built up tensions between her and her students and parents because of strict policies implemented in her classroom. And this could have led to the issue at hand. We don't know yet. But she was emailed about a threatening website, and on the website, she found highly suggestive comments about her personal behaviors and critical comments about the rigor of her classes using vulgar cuss words. Um, she then reported the incident and suggested a few students that could have been involved with creating this website and saying these harmful things. Um, so these are the things we know from the case study. One, Miss Walker was threatened on a website. Two, it's not known who sent the threatening messages, but Miss Walker has identified some students who have had issues with her in the past couple weeks. And finally, Miss Walker has been known to be a strict teacher who has received complaints from parents and students. So now we have to ask, what do we need to know to solve this case? My first question was, what is the district policy behind teachers receiving threats? Where do we go from here? Who do we contact? Do police need to be involved? Miss Walker was very upset about this, rightfully so. And what steps do we need to ensure that she feels safe coming back into the classroom? Number two is we have to find out who posted these threatening messages. Was it a student? Was it a parent? And how can we resolve this issue? And lastly, what classroom changes can be made to ease the tension between Miss Walker and her students and their parents? Um, Obviously, the building principal has tried this before, but we need to follow up and we need to make sure that the students and parents both feel uh, safe in Miss Walker's room. So, the plan of action that I developed. The first step will involve notifying and meeting with district officials. Whenever a threat is made towards a teacher, it should be run up through the highest levels. The superintendent will then decide what should be done next, like notifying the police or beginning the investigation. As the building principal, and let's say the superintendent okayed me to begin the investigation, I will meet with the several students and again with Miss Walker to see if I can identify who may have been responsible for the threatening web page. Again, if the superintendent has other ideas on what route to go, I will follow their advice. Lastly, I would meet with Miss Walker again to set up procedures in her classroom, follow up on how things are going, and what could be done to fix them. My strategies for implementing this is to first meet with district officials first thing in the morning the next day. And following that meeting, I will follow the advice of the district. I'll discuss the issue with Miss Walker and then interview a few students she thinks could know information about the issue. Lastly, Miss Walker and I will discuss how to implement procedures in their classroom and how I'm going to follow up as the building leader in making sure these procedures are implemented. Resolving the issues based on promoting academic success and personal well-being of each student. This is critical for a building leader. First, by meeting with the district, we get to review what procedures need to be implemented, and by doing this, we promote the well-being of our students and staff. Number two, solving this issue would allow the school to protect both the students and staff and put into place safeguards as preventative measures, thus again promoting the well-being of each student. And lastly, with procedural changes planned for Miss Walker's room, students will feel more empowered instead of stressed. and this should lead to further academic successes in the classroom. So, reflecting on this case study, there were a few things that I thought about while I was um, reading through it. First, of course, was what are the proper procedures? As a building administrator, you need to know what the procedures are, and if you don't, you need to know who to ask. So immediately, I thought, what procedures are in place or should be in place? Secondly, I was thinking, is there a way to find out who did this? How do we investigate this? Do we go through our technology committee to try and find if our technology staff to try and find if it was done on a school computer? Do we just interview students who think they know who did it? Uh, how do we ultimately solve this problem? And hopefully, at the district level, we can figure out a way to go. And lastly, how can the classroom changes be made without Miss Walker feeling alienated? I don't want her to think I'm siding with the student who made these derogatory comments. I want her to feel like we're supporting her. And so it would take a little while for me to talk about the procedural changes, and I'd have to do it very slowly, making sure she doesn't feel like she's being ganged up on or she is the one in the wrong. But obviously, if there's tension in the classroom and parents and students are noting this, then there needs to be some changes. What I was feeling while I was reflecting on this case study was I was very concerned with the severity of the issue. How can we go forward to solve this problem and do it quickly, promptly, um, and make sure it doesn't happen again, or at least limit it so that it's unlikely to happen again? This is a very important issue, and it obviously affected Miss Walker greatly, so we must follow up with it and keep the severity in mind. I was also feeling confused on how to properly investigate the incident. Do I immediately interview students? Um, do I take Miss Walker's word at who she thinks may have done it? How do I begin this investigation? And I'd probably talk again with the superintendent to see what steps need to be followed to solve this problem. And lastly, I was also conflicted. How can I help Miss Walker, the students, and their families all at once? It's going to take a lot of patience and a lot of, I guess, finagling to solve the problem and make sure that all three parties are feeling cared for and safe, and both the academic and well-being of the students is being promoted, as well as Miss Walker's. Finally, I had some unresolved issues. Again, we still don't know who did it. Secondly, will Miss Walker implement the changes in her classroom? That's going to be a follow-up process that the building administrator has to follow through to make sure those changes occur. It doesn't seem like through the case study that happened the first time. Number three, what will the relationship between Miss Walker, her students, and their families be like moving forward? It still needs to be positive, but this is obviously a big thing that happened to Miss Walker, and she's going to have to bounce back from it to teach all her students. She shouldn't have to come into her classroom thinking, which one of my kids did this, and feel unsafe in the classroom environment. So these are all unresolved issues that hopefully will be resolved through the plan of action, or at least looked at. How I promoted academic success for every student. By meeting with district officials to figure out how to solve this case, it will ensure that students' well-being and academics are safe. We're going through the highest ranks and going through the order to solve this case. And with that, students' well-being and academics are at the forefront, along with Ms. Walker's. Second, reviewing expectations in the school's acceptable use policy for internet use will create a more successful academic environment. Students will be reminded of what their rights are when using the internet, and it'll also allow us to practice some safe internet usage. So I think reviewing those expectations with students will be a big benefit and promote their academic success. And lastly, each student will benefit from the new procedures placed in Ms. Walker's room because they will relieve that academic stress that they've been having, and instead of stress, make it a success. The adherence to ethical principles and professional norms that I came up with was, again, by meeting with district officials, it's guaranteeing that we're adhering to a code of ethics. We're following through with how the district wants to solve cases like this. And those procedures are evaluated and designed in an ethical manner. Second, the students who may have information regarding the threatening website will be interviewed in an ethical manner. If this is the route we go, that the district decides, then the students that are interviewed will be interviewed fairly and with notification of the families. Lastly, by meeting with Ms. Walker and establishing new procedures in a room, we are implementing professional norms that I'll be following up on, and hopefully that she follows up on in the future as she continues her teaching career. Lastly, the demonstration of personal and professional code of ethics. By checking with the district and proper procedures to follow, I'm demonstrating a code of ethics. Again, following the procedures set forth by the district is adhering and demonstrating a code of ethics. Again, meeting with Ms. Walker and the students and solving this case in an ethical manner, not blaming specific students or families, but investigating it in an ethical way. And lastly, reviewing the classroom expectations while also recognizing the traumatic experience that Ms. Walker has gone through. It's important to make sure she knows that this is a very serious case, and not only do we need to make her feel safe at the school and at home, but we need to make our students feel safe as well. And that is how I hope to implement my plan of action and solve the problems put forth by this case. Thank you.